Whenever I do workshops or speeches or trainings on freelancing, I always get this one question. Can I become a freelancer with no experience? And yes, you can. End of video. Okay, it's not that easy, but I actually did the same thing 15 years ago. I started out as a freelance writer without any prior writing experience. So today I want to share with you my personal journey of freelancing, what role does experience play in success, as well as a couple of tips on how you can make the same transition seamlessly. When I was in my early 20s, I had this nightmare scenario that I'm 30 with no goals and I'm slugging away in a boring corporate office. Basically, the 1999 movie Office Space might have had a bit of an impact on early Peter's worldviews. And I wanted to avoid this nightmare scenario at all costs. I didn't like the traditional get a career, pay your mortgage, settle down recipe. I wanted to travel the world, to do awesome stuff, to learn and experience the human condition. I wanted independence, basically, the opposite of corporate slavery. So I decided to look for alternative careers, alternative ways to make a living, and one day I searched for online jobs and I found that there's this thing called freelancing. I found this site called Elance. Nowadays it's called Upwork, but back then it was Elance. And since I was pretty decent with words, I figured, hey, I could become a freelance writer. And lo and behold, I pretty soon landed my first writing job, right? Something that paid a whopping $1 per article. It wasn't glamorous. And I had to churn out 150 of these articles in the mesmerizing topic of copper sinks. But this was still better than flipping burgers for, Ronald McDonald, and more importantly, I had my independence. Anyhow, long story short, churning out stupid blog articles actually had some use because it made me interested in SEO. And through that, I became interested in paid advertisement, then content marketing, even branding and design. And a couple of years had passed and I had built a pop-up marketing agency. And then all this experience actually made me a sought-after, battle-hardened content marketing consultant. Within a 10-year span, I came from churning out $1 article pieces to becoming a successful marketing generalist with a pretty solid day rate. My work has been featured in the boardrooms of FIFA, DHL, and Canon. As for my independence, well, the freelance lifestyle has enabled me to do awesome things. I avoided my nightmare scenario. I never had to submit for leave and pray that my boss approves it. I never had to worry about money. And I managed to live my dream lifestyle. So the big question, can you make it as a freelancer without any real experience? Yes. But there is a catch. Think of freelancing as a race. In this race, winning or crossing the finish line means having good clients, working on fun projects, and generally enjoying life as a freelancer. Good news though, in this race, you do not really start from zero. Through your knowledge, skill set, languages spoken, and even geographical location, you might have some advantages or disadvantages. So even if you feel like not having any experiences, you have some kind of a head start, right? Nobody is starting this race from completely zero. The more experience you have in your respective field, the better your starting chances are when it comes to winning the race. So what's the catch? Well, the catch is that even if you have a good head start, if you don't put in the hours, you can actually fail at this. I've seen seasoned industry professionals trying to make the transition from a regular creative job to freelancing, but failing because they thought it would be, just handed to them. But don't worry, this is actually good news for you, right? Because I've seen the exact opposite of this happening also. People fresh out of high school, just hustling hard to find that extra income that, puts them through college, whatever. Hey, I was one of these people, right? And really, that is the only key ingredient to making it as a freelancer. Putting in the work hours. And if you have a bit of a head start, if you already have some skills and resources, you might have to put in less of these work hours, at least initially. But that's it. Now, let's talk about maximizing your chances in winning your own race. And actually this brings me to some of the quick tips. How did I actually start out? How did I land my first gig ever? And what would I do differently if I were you today, starting out with freelancing without any experience? So the first thing to get right is to pick your service. Try to find something that you like, something that people have already complimented you on. Like your aunt saying, hey, you are very talented at design, or your friends complimenting you on your, funny writing or on your creative TikToks that you do. whatever. And don't stress too much about this, because picking your freelancing service is like going on a road trip. You can pick a direction and just go with the flow. If you don't like where you're headed, you can always, turn around and try a different destination. No pressure. I would also pick a service that is in demand. How do you know that something is in demand? Well, check Upwork and Fiverr and see what other established freelancers do. Are there a lot of other people offering, for example, YouTube thumbnail design? If yes, then that's actually great news for you. Don't be afraid of the competition because there's always room for one more on the market, right? And competition means that there is real demand for that service. It has been validated by the market and by others, so go after that. If I were just starting out, I would also try to find my muse, so to speak. By this I mean finding another established freelancer in the same niche as I and just trying to learn what they are doing and what makes them successful. I would try to imitate their success and eventually ask the question of, okay, how can I be even better than this guy, right? How can I grow? How can I be the best damn whatever YouTube thumbnail designer? I would also create a basic portfolio, a couple of examples of your work, and that's it, that's your portfolio. But wait, you might ask, how do I present a body of work without working for a client? Well, simple. Assign yourself test challenges. If you want to be a designer, design a logo for a fictional company. If you want to be a TikTok editor, for example, find an up-and-coming TikToker and offer her to do a couple of edits. Or if you want to be a writer, write an article about something that you care about and put it on medium.com. Finally, as a beginner, I would probably lean into turning my negatives into positives. Let me give you an example. When I started out freelancing and pitched to get my first bid, I did the following. I actually acknowledged that I'm a complete beginner on the platform. And I actually told my client that this is not a bad thing. In fact, this is good for them. Why? Well, I told them that as a fresh freelancer, I would be working twice as hard to prove myself. For another established freelancer, this would have been just, another job, another gig. For me, this is a life or death scenario. I turned my negative into a positive, and it actually worked. My first client actually wrote back and told me that this approach really resonated with him. So, follow these steps. Don't worry about your personal advantages and disadvantages. There's no reason for you to wait for a magic sign to get started or whatever. Get started with experimenting with freelancing and you will eventually win the race of freelancing. Especially if you watch this video on how to set up the perfect Upwork profile. This video will help you build trust and get your first client on the platform. That's it for today. Have a good one.